Good afternoon, my name is Jeanette Hanchett. I'm doing my video project presentation. I will be doing a combination of both A and B on here. A being compare and contrast the impressions about African American lit and culture before I enrolled in the class versus what I know now. Well, I've always been fascinated with basically learning with my culture, which is why I enrolled in the first place into this class. Let's see here. What I know now. I didn't know much about the Black Arts Movement. I knew it existed, but I never knew the title of it. I did not know that it was called the Black Arts Movement. I did not know that the leader of it was named Baraka. And I didn't know how powerful that movement itself would, you know, change a certain era. And that was around the time where many of the direct action protests were happening with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Ruby Bridges, all the sit-ins and everything that you could read about in this book. This book. There you go. Before I enrolled in this class, I was actually, I was tired of, how do I explain this? I was enrolled in world literature class. I dropped out of it because it was just so boring to me. Why would I wanted to, you know, read more about my culture, like I said. I read things on the side in my spare time, like things about slavery and a few poems from the Harlem Renaissance. And I couldn't read much of that for world literature anyway. I knew there were some things that I was missing out on, especially knowing that this class existed, so I had to get into it. Okay. Now, part B, letting people know who have not enrolled in this class, you know, what's so good about it, what they can learn, the importance of reading Black literature. Well, this class is very important, very, you know, eye-opening. You can learn even the smallest things such as, you know, the smallest phrases such as picnic. Pick a nigga. Basically, that's what it means. I didn't even know that until maybe day 1 or day 2 of this class, which was shown in, I believe it was the PowerPoint presentation that Dr. Benson had shown within day 1 or day 2. Very eye-opening to me. Small phrases like that can be very eye-opening to you also. The part about the, what do you call it, when some rappers call their jewelry chains and they call their cars whips, makes you think a little deeper into Black history. Like, really, why would you do that? But like I said, this class is like a mix of Black history mixed with Black literature. They just both go hand in hand. Like I said, you get to learn about the direct action protests and more about how things definitely did fire off, especially after the death of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So many things. And get to learn about the Black Panthers, how they weren't really exactly what you call a gang, but they actually helped the Black people, you know? The direct action protests, which I think really did it for us, really just, it put our words into action, because words are just words. If you don't put it in action, I mean, people won't really understand unless you put it into action anyway. So those protests, I believe, came in handy. It caused many arrests and deaths, but it was well worth it. It was part of what brought us here, you know, where we are today. We have a voice now, versus back then when we didn't really have a voice, back then in the slavery days, which kind of sucked. the small voice that we did have, we would put into hymns and songs in the cotton fields, versus how we evolved from there. We would start from there from the songs in the cotton fields to the what would I say here? Excuse me. To the slave narratives, when our ancestors would get interviewed, to, putting our words and our frustrations into literature, into poems, into, our own stories, to spreading out to newspapers, any way that we could put, how we felt, our pain and our happiness, into everything, to art. There's many forms of arts: sing, dance, paint, poetry. There's so many forms that we would take over. To protest, to action. We can only get better and better with this. We've gone as far as even getting a black president, finally. Back then, we never imagined that we would even have that, and now we do. But it's great to learn the steps that we had to take in order to progress to where we are now. It's very, very important. And it's so much more that you could learn with African American literature versus regular, plain literature. I don't know about you, but plain literature for me is just boring. And I'm just not really interested in it, versus African American literature, where it has more to do with my culture and the struggle itself. It's good to always learn about the struggle, because if you don't learn about the struggle of what our ancestors have been through, and the people of the past have been through, then how are you going to appreciate where we are now? You're not really going to appreciate where we are now if you don't know much about it. So I think it would be really good for you to enroll in this class. You'll be surprised what you can learn, especially with instruction. There are many things that you could go into the library and read, by yourself, which is what I was doing in the first place anyway, but with someone that knows a little more about it, like an instructor, that could put it into more perspective for you and just let you know even more of the things that you didn't know to begin with. It could be just very shocking and eye-opening. Yeah, there'll be a lot of reading involved in the class, but it's worth it. It's quite interesting also. So, I'm a woman of not many words in some cases, especially in this situation, but yeah. Please forgive me for that. But I hope you like my video, and I am now off to do a few more finals. Thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day.